Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain my review of the latest summon showcase. It's our anniversary Gala Dragalia featuring Gala Zethia and Gala Bahamut. I'll try to answer the question of whether or not you should summon, and in particular, one thing I'm interested in is comparing this showcase, which starts tomorrow, to our current banner, which ends today. So I'm going to try and make this a shorter video to get it uploaded so that there's still a little bit of time if you're trying to make that decision. Hopefully you have a chance to watch this, but it's genuinely not a cut and dry decision. Zethia and Bahamut both look awesome, but they also seem to have really new and unconventional play styles that are hard to evaluate just based on paper. On the other hand, the current showcase features Gala Mascula, Gala Not, Gala Chell, and all of the reborn Gala Dragons who have proven their worth in the endgame at this point and are quite a good value on their own. Not to mention, on the current showcase, you can spark any of the past Gala adventurers, so there's definitely merit to summoning on the current showcase compared to the one with Zethia and Bahamut. Bahamut looks like an excellent shadow dragon. I think that there's a high likelihood that Bahamut will be the strongest shadow dragon, if not just very, very close to Gala Reborn Nidhogg. I believe that Bahamut will surpass Reborn Nidhogg, particularly when it comes to the dragon form, but I do think that Reborn Nidhogg has already proven that he's good enough to clear the current endgame content. What is a little less certain is the future. And so we're going to talk about all of that in this video. I do want to pull up the current summon showcase here because I haven't had a chance to make a dedicated video to this, but this is one that I think will tempt a lot of players, and unfortunately it's at its end here today. But as you can see, you can spark any past Gala adventure on this showcase, including some standouts like Gala Mim, Leonidas, and Gala Odric here, who is one of the few adventures in the game that has Flash Burn, a very important ability in one of the endgame fights, or Affliction I should say. And Shell herself, who's done an appearance right up, Mascula and Not are also all pretty strong. The big thing though I think with this showcase is your rates on your Gala Reborn Dragons are just are awesome because all 5 are an appearance rate up. So you can see Mascula there, Not here, and Chell. But then for dragons, you have Reborn Agni, Reborn Poseidon, Reborn Zephyr, Jean, and Nidhogg. And currently these are at the top as far as some of the best dragons in the game. Bahamut may change that slightly in the shadow element, but these are still excellent dragons in all 5 elements. So this is actually a pretty high value banner if you want to build out your dragon collection. Now I will say that strong dragons are slightly more accessible now thanks to the Draconic Essences and the 5th Unbind that you can get for regular Agni, regular Jeanne d'Arc, regular Nidhogg, Zephyr, and Poseidon. So those are pretty good dragons for any battle that lasts 3 minutes or less. So it's a tough trade-off. I mean, it's a genuinely tough choice here. Like, this might come down to personal preference and your favorite adventures. If there's a character here you've been just really wanting to spark for a long time, I wouldn't fault you at all for summoning on the showcase, and I think you're probably going to get a lot of these really strong dragons along the way, or at least I would hope so. On the other hand, if Zethia is that character that you really want, or Bahamut is the character / dragon that you really want, the showcase that starts tomorrow also looks quite good, but the dragons I do think are weaker, and we'll get into that. So let's hop over to the description of the upcoming showcase here. Gala Dragalia coming soon, and this one features Zethia, Bahamut, who we've talked about, but also some other dragons, Mars, Beast Volk, Thor, and Cat Sith. Mars is a very, very good dragon in the flame element. Certainly one of the top 3 dragons, arguably the best dragon in a more skill spam heavy environment. Not the best on every adventure, but a really good dragon nonetheless. One that holds up today very well. Gala Beast Volk is a dragon that just released a month ago, so very new and powerful dragon with some downsides, but downsides that can be mitigated in some of the hardest endgame fights, and still quite a strong dragon, I would say. So both of these are good. Unfortunately, Thor and Cat Sith here are the weak links on this showcase, and they're just not that good in the current endgame Sinister Dominion because they center around buffs which get cancelled out in those fights by a mechanic called Curse of Nihility. So on this showcase, I think you're looking at, 3 great pulls as far as dragons, 1 probably great adventurer, and then 2 dragons that just aren't as exciting. On the other showcase, there are 5 really good dragons, the current showcase, and 3 adventurers that are proven. Mascula and Not in particular, I think, are the better among the 3, but from those of you out there that do use Shell for your own endgame content, I've heard good things as well. I haven't made as much use of her, but I've heard great things in the comments about her, so it's a tough choice. For me, fortunately, I have been playing for a while, was caught up on the galas from the past Summon showcases, so I'm going to be sinking my resources into this new banner with Zethia and Bahamut, and the one gala that I wasn't caught up on being Beast Volk. As far as the kit here for Zethia, and then we'll look at Bahamut, it's a little hard to parse on paper. So I mentioned this at the onset, but Gala Zethia, she is a Shadow Blade. You can see her awesome Bahamut form there. Her skills, or should I say skill, because there's only one, is Genesis Circlet. It deals damage to surrounding enemies, and during the attack, the user is immune to knockback and damage taken is reduced by 30%. It's also shareable, which could be interesting with the reduction in damage taken and immunity to knockback. The skill gauge is filled automatically, gradually, but can also be filled by attacking enemies, and the amount of time required to fill the gauge increases every time you use it, up to twice per quest. Abilities that increase skill gauge fill rate don't affect the automatic increase, so the first hit of Genesis Circlet is going to be the fastest to dispatch or to use. Every subsequent hit is going to take a little bit longer to use, so once you get to that third one, it's going to be static, I suppose. The amount of time it takes to fill up the gauge won't increase from there. But quite interesting that she only has one skill here. As a blade, she does have this strength plus 10% co-ability, which is good. That's what we want to see on blades, but it's not a unique or special co-ability that you might expect for an anniversary adventure. And likewise, her chain co-ability, it gives her extra light resistance when you apply a team critical damage amp. That's not something that I would say is particularly remarkable or rare or powerful here either. So that's something that does stand out about her kit. Her ability here, the first one, is really what makes her very unique, so we'll focus on that the most and just read briefly the last 2 first. Blessing of Creation 2 reduces susceptibility to blindness and paralysis by 100%, and then Providential Blade 2, the 5th and 9th attacks in Zethia's standard attack combo grant her a critical damage amp with a maximum team amp level of 1. So amps are a special type of buff that isn't dispelled by the Curse of Nihility in the Sinister Dominion boss fights, so they're particularly good in those boss fights. We do have one upcoming boss fight in that series against Surtur. The second part of Surtur's fight on the Master difficulty is going to be Light Element, so you'll want to use Shadow Element adventurers like Zethia here. Now, that's really specific, right? That's half of one hard endgame fight that has yet to release, and otherwise the current content where you'd use a Shadow Adventure is against Asura, and against Asura, the first part of that fight you get to use Shadow Element Adventurers, and in the second half you use Flame Element Adventurers. And sure, I think this would be fine there because other types of buffs are dispelled, but I will say that critical damage, we've seen how powerful it can be when you can really scale and stack it with critical damage double buff in the past. That has been a really powerful strategy, a meta-defining strategy for a long time, until the Sinister Dominion. This looks much more controlled by nature of it being an amp and also having a cap of 1 right now. So I don't really expect this to be super explosive necessarily or a core part of her kit, but I will say one interesting thing here, since it mentions the 5th and 9th attacks, that tells you that she's not going to have a standard combo of a blade, because blades normally don't strike 9 times in their attack combo. So getting into that a little bit more, we'll read through her first ability here, because this kind of sums up what makes her such a unique character. Genesis Pact Bearer 2 grants Zethia a summon gauge and changes the shapeshift button into a summon button. Tapping this button summons Bahamut. While Bahamut is summoned, the power of certain standard attacks is greatly increased, and Bahamut will attack automatically. After attacking a set number of times, Bahamut will automatically use the Cataclysm Beam skill. The damage dealt by Bahamut's automatic attacks and skill will be identical to the dragon Gala Bahamut's attacks and skill, so we'll read on those soon. While Bahamut is not summoned, certain standard attacks will fill the summon gauge. Swiping to dodge during a standard attack will carry out an additional attack towards surrounding enemies, and performing a standard attack during this unique dodge will then resume Zethia's standard attack combo from her most recent attack. Dodging again immediately after Zethia's unique dodge will instead result in a standard dodge. In addition, Zethia will deal damage to surrounding enemies when she dodges an attack. This attack will only activate once per dodge. Zethia will not unlock a second skill. Whoa, so obviously a lot to unpack here. The big thing being that Zethia literally summons and fights alongside Bahamut. So this might even be a little bit of foreshadowing for the next chapter of the story, who knows? But her pack seems very unique in that respect, that she's summoning and fighting alongside this dragon, so she's not going to be able to take advantage of dragon forms like most other adventurers. It sounds like she might play similar to a dragon drive type unit, or a unit with a unique transformation like Not, or like, let's say, Tiki. But Bahamut, by all means, being such an iconic and signature dragon for the series, for Cygames as a whole, I fully expect to be a really powerful dragon to summon. So I think that despite the fact that she doesn't have a second skill, this unique mechanic and playstyle will compensate for that. The one thing I see about Zethia that I think is a little bit of a weakness here is you don't have a lot of utility in her kit. So you do have some personal damage taken reduction and immunities knockback, but there's nothing here that is going to dispel or afflict enemies. You know, there's no poison or poison res down, shadow blight res down, no dispel for buffs that the enemy is going to accumulate. And that is a real need against Asura in particular. If you want to apply afflictions consistently, he has such a high resistance, or she has such a high resistance, that you have to use those res downs to get a really good uptime. And even then, there's also some buffs that Asura can stack that you might want to dispel. Probably not the most essential thing in the world, but I do think that it's helpful. And when you go back to previous content where you use Shadow Adventurers, Kaiyan is the legend Agito that you might want to take on. Dispel is essential for that. So, you know, in those fights, the Agito fights, amps are not all that, because you can use regular buffs. There's no Curse of Nihility. So I do sort of wonder here what the overall, prospects are like for Gala Zethia. You have to be able to fit her into a team nicely. Now, it may be that she's just so powerful that you can just Oonga Boonga, if you will, and you can just have 4 Gala Zethias. The damage is incredibly explosive, and maybe you just end fights in like 20 seconds. That is certainly possible, but I don't see it just looking at things here. And let's move on to Gala Bahamut next. Gala Bahamut, really sweet design. Just gotta point that out. But anyway, we'll read the skill, Cataclysm Beam. It has a unique gauge with 3 bars attached to the skill button that is filled by standard attacks and dragon strikes while the user is shapeshifted. Upon use, this skill's effects are based on the number of bars currently filled. 1 bar deals damage to the target and nearby enemies. 2 bars deals damage to the target and nearby enemies and grants the entire team a team defense amp. 3 bars deals damage to the target and nearby enemies and grants the entire team a team strength amp and team defense amp. So, once again, it amuses me a little bit, the amp thing, because amps are kind of worse variants of normal buffs in terms of the amount of buff that you get, yet they're arbitrarily allowed in Curse of Nihility content for the purpose of making new adventurers relevant and old adventurers controlled. So I do feel like this is a little bit arbitrary, but defense amps have proven to be pretty valuable, and when it comes to auto strategies, they're pretty good. So I think that defense amp here is actually more relevant than the strength amp, and the fact that Zethia says that her summoned Bahamut is identical to the real Gala Bahamut. Basically, this turns her into an amp machine, because her summon will be providing defense and strength amps, and she's going to be providing critical damage amps. Actually quite good with any kind of amp synergy that you may have going on your team. So this seems powerful to me. You probably want to wait until it's fully charged to get the maximum benefit out of it, and you can fully charge it easily enough by just doing attacks in dragon form, kind of saving it to the end of your dragon form or until it's ready, and also using dragon strikes, something relatively new that's kind of like a 4-strike for dragons that a previous Gala Dragon, Gala Volk, also had. So here we go with the abilities. Shadow Strength 120%, Almighty Rage 2, fills 50% of the dragon gauge at the start of quests, and extends shapeshift time by 100%, but doubles the amount of dragon energy required to shapeshift. The user's maximum dragon energy is not increased. So my interpretation of this, which could be off, but if it fills 50% of the dragon gauge, and it doubles the amount of dragon energy required to shapeshift, you normally need half of the gauge to shapeshift, and now you need double, so I think you need 100% of your entire dragon gauge. For most adventurers, historically, if you fill up the whole gauge, you get 2 shapeshifts worth. For Bahamut, my interpretation here is you fill up the whole gauge and that's 1 shapeshift worth. And since you already get 50% for free, you don't necessarily get a shapeshift for free here on Bahamut itself. You have to wait and fill it up the rest of the way. So it sort of starts you closer, but then for your subsequent second shapeshift, you're going to have to fill it up all the way. So that's how I'm reading this. You also get, of course, a longer duration shapeshift, but this still kind of could function similar to Ramiel if you just shift or switch characters to another character with a different dragon equipped, and by having Bahamut on another adventure that moves to your backline, you could take advantage of this 100%, or not 100%, but 50% shapeshift prep, and you could even increase that if you're using a helper with Ramiel, let's say, or with Bahamut. So that seems pretty good. I mean, shapeshift transformation strategies. I'm not sure how much of a drawback it'll be, the fact that it's going to take longer to build up a single dragon. Reading on, it also grants the user the Dragon Strike when shapeshifted as Bahamut. It deals damage to multiple targets and enemies near those targets. And the final thing is that the maximum amount of the dragon gauge that abilities can fill at the start of quests will be limited to 50% for the entire team. So apologies for what I just said. Doesn't sound like you can actually use and overstack this with Ramiel Help or anything. So there's also something else here regarding the effect of the Almighty Rage abilities dragon gauge limit on the team. Okay, so let's see about this. Limits the maximum amount of the dragon gauge that abilities can fill at the start of quests to 50% for the entire team, including adventures controlled by other players during co-op quests, excluding raids, when at least one player on the team uses an adventure equipped with Gala Bahamut. So it even affects co-op, is my takeaway from that. Interesting. I mean, the 120% strength is very good. Compares favorably to Gala Reborn Nidhogg, who has 70% strength and then has 30% extra elemental bonus against neutral foes or light foes. This is more powerful in a vacuum against any type of foe, not just neutral or light foes, so there's something to be said about that. But yeah, this looks like an excellent dragon. I've come around a little bit after thinking about the amp implications a little more. Not that Asura is unclearable, to be sure, with current dragons or current content, but it is a little bit on the grindy side if you're not just, autoing it out. So I do see the consideration and appeal here. Maybe if Surtur is really pushed, there could be a reason that you want to have Gala Bahamut. But I think more so it's just epic. It's the anniversary dragon. It's bound to be a really powerful dragon. Even if you're not looking to necessarily clear in new content right away, we're probably at some point going to get legend variants of the Sinister Dominion, if I had to guess, but that may be a ways off. So I think there will certainly be uses here in the future. And Gala Zethia is harder to read for me, but seems like she'll have a unique and quite interesting playstyle with her summoning. But anyway, y'all, that is pretty much going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at our new Gala Anniversary Adventure and Dragon in the form of Zethia and Bahamut. It was pretty fun taking a look at their kits today, and I hope you still have a little time left if you wanted to summon on the previous summon showcase. In a couple days, we're going to get this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of October, so stay tuned for a video on that. And of course, tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching this, or maybe in the past, we're also getting our Faith Forsaken event with the free playable Harl that will be starting very soon. So once again, y'all, that is going to do it for today. Thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.